10 o'clock, and you're sitting with Mayor John Penny and City Manager Joe Forte, and we're going to just have a brief discussion this morning. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you.
That's great. So we're going to talk a little bit about what happened at our commission meeting last Tuesday, and we'll talk a little bit about some projects that are going on in the city. Where do you want to start? You want to start with the good stuff, the projects?
Yeah, there's lots of good stuff coming on.
Well, let's start with the YMCA. We had a conversation with Joan Monty, and with Chris Silcop about our YMCA.
Right.
Some good news coming out of there, I think.
Yes. You know, we have a donor that's going to make a big donation to the YMCA and going to earmark it for the Holly Hill Y. And so we're talking about some dreaming about some capital improvements there, making it a little more new, shiny and new, adding some new programs there. There'll be a big capital fundraising campaign, I'm sure, coming soon, and we're going to use our donors' contribution to try and match it. So got some big things coming. It's at the 100,000 foot level right now, but we'll be dialing that down in to ground level pretty soon, hopefully.
All right, so one of the things that always comes up when we talk about this is how long is this going to take?
Unfortunately, it'll take longer than any of us wants it to take. First of all, we have to come up with the plan. Everyone has to agree on the plan. Then engineering, so the plan may change through engineering. And then the hard part is always raising the money for the dreams that we have.
So I know that we have a big donor that's going to put in about $1.5 million.
Right. Yeah, I think it was $1 million a month ago. Now I think it's risen to $1.5 million.
Yeah, and then Chris said that they're going to try to levy that against some other fundraising activities and try to get a match.
Right.
So maybe we would be looking at maybe $3 million. So that's wonderful.
And we also had a workshop with the city commission, and we'll talk about some of the other capital improvements. We were talking about maybe the city putting some into that to help our residents also make it the best it can be.
Yeah, so this could be a $3-4 million upgrade to our YMCA.
Right.
Making it new, making it more attractive, bringing some more of the programs and the features that this community may want to see there. But again, it's going to take a couple of years.
Right.
It's nothing we're going to see in the next 6 months to a year. It's going to be probably 2 to 3, maybe even 4 years out.
Well, it's one of those things that if we don't dream and we don't envision the future and we don't start it now, it'll never happen.
No,
you know, it's like how to eat an elephant. You know, one bite at a time. Just
That's right.
Keep moving forward.
One bite at a time. So the Y is open. The pool is open. They're active, and if anybody doesn't know about it, they should go visit the YMCA and see what they have to offer. It's got opportunities for children, for adults, for seniors. So it's a great place.
And now that it's swim season, you know, one of the most dangerous things that a lot of us have in our homes aren't firearms. It's the pool.
It is.
And there's so many people in our community that don't know how to swim. And so it's swim lesson season at the Y. The Holly Hill Kiwanis Club has just donated $750 to provide swim lessons for kids that don't have the opportunity to pay for the swim lessons. It's expensive.
It is, and that's very important. You know, we many years ago, we had a child here, the grandchild of one of our employees who drowned, and that was a very sad time. So I'm very excited that the YMCA takes children and their swimming lessons seriously. So anybody that needs swim lessons, they even offer grants for some folks that can't afford it, especially with the help that the Kiwanis gives. So that's wonderful. So let's jump on to the big attraction that we see happening on Ridgewood Avenue. The corner of LPGA and Ridgewood has been an eyesore for many years. What's going on there?
We are redeveloping. We're taking some blighted property that, how many acres is that, Joe?
Oh, I don't know the acreage. It's not very big, maybe about 1.5 acres, 2 acres.
But, you know, someone told me, actually it was Mayor Bill Arthur told me the definition of blight is that if the area looks better without the buildings. And I think right now that corner looks better without the buildings, and
Sure
a
does.
week from now, it'll look even better once all the demolition is completed. But there's a Murphy convenience store going there and gas station. It's going to be amazing.
So this Murphy, it's not like you see the one up at Walmart where it's just a gas station with a little kiosk building. This is going to be a full-blown convenience store, similar to what like a racetrack or a smaller version of a Wawa. is
Right,
gonna
right. People can go in and pick up a sandwich or cold drink, and also fill up at the same time.
be. Right, right. That's great. It's needed. It's going to certainly clean up the corner. The city is looking to hopefully put some kind of a welcome sign there as well, and that will help bring some more visibility to the city of Holly Hill. And speaking of welcome signs, we also talked with the folks up at Nova and LPGA where they're putting in the Goodwill store. And those folks are redesigning and renovating the old. It was originally Food Lion, and then it was Save a Lot. And they're redoing that. And they came to us, and we had a conversation about another gateway sign right at the corner of Nova and LPGA. So those are two primary locations that are great spots to put a nice welcome to Holly Hill, some kind of a gateway greeting sign for
Right,
people.
right. No, we have another gateway. There's a big project going on at the other gateway to the east, coming over the bridge.
That's right.
Big development going there. You'll see the what are those silt fences, the black fences that are around the property now. So from Daytona Avenue to Riverside Drive, actually from Daytona Avenue to Shirley Hayman Retention Pond there.
Right.
It's going to be a new storage facility coming really soon.
So they're in the process now of taking down what used to be the AMCO station there, clearing that property, getting it level, getting it ready for development, and that project should take about a year from the time they start to the time it's done. So that's another great project going on in the city. And then the last thing that we can talk about is what's going to take place over at Walker and Ridgewood. So we got another business coming in at Walker and Ridgewood. What's going on there?
Walker and Ridgewood. Oh. I was like, wait.
You know what it is.
I know what it is. It's a Dunkin'. We used to call them Dunkin' Donuts, but now it's just Dunkin'.
Yeah.
It won't just be the Dunkin' retail shop, but there'll also be some office availability, maybe another restaurant. There will be spaces for rent. I think it's going to be these people that have this Dunkin' franchise. I think they own 7 or maybe more locations throughout Central Florida.
The two ladies, yes, she definitely owns the one up there off of LPGA toward 95, and about a half a dozen others around.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be their corporate headquarters, and then they'll also have space available for other restaurants or other professional businesses to relocate there also. So that's coming soon.
So that's going to be a freestanding Dunkin' with another strip store. I think that's what they're putting in up there. Yeah. That's great. So there's a lot of nice development coming along the way for the city of Holly Hill. Jumping onto our agenda last week, we only had a couple of items on the agenda. It wasn't that big of an agenda. It started out with renewing our disaster and debris hauling contracts. So what that has to do with, when we get a hurricane or we get a bad storm that's declared an emergency, we don't have the resources ourselves to handle all of the debris. So we have to hire contractors that will collect all that debris, bring it to a site where it gets mulched up and then brought out to a landfill. And then we also have a company that has to monitor that, because many years ago the state of Florida and probably the federal government decided that these haulers now need to be monitored. So we have to keep an eye on what they're hauling out, how it's being ground up, how it's being distributed. So we renewed a 3-year contract for that. We made another payment, which I'll call the final payment for the overhead to underground project on Ridgewood Avenue, and that's from Walker Street up to the North City limits. So that project should be coming to an end by the end of this summer. So I'm excited about that. And the last thing we had on our agenda was a very simple item, but an important item, and that was improvements to our audio system in the commission chambers. Although we've had our challenges these last couple of meetings with it, but I think we've learned what the problem was. So at the next meeting, I think we'll be under control, and everybody will hear us pretty well, and we don't have to mess around with too many buttons.
Yeah, that'll be really nice. With anything new, there's a learning curve, and we're figuring it out.
Yeah, there is. The old system was just that. It was old. It had a lot of feedback. A lot of people couldn't hear. The new system is state-of-the-art, and I think part of the problem is we're not really state-of-the-art kind of people. So we weren't really aware of all the features that it had, and we didn't have them all turned on properly. So some folks in the back of the room weren't hearing us too well. But I I think we got it straightened up now, and it's going to work. It's going to work well. I'm happy about that. And then prior to the meeting, we had a workshop at 6 o'clock. And just as a reminder, the City Commission meets every second and fourth Tuesday of the month. They meet at 6 o'clock. Sometimes we have a work session that will begin at 5 o'clock. And at the work sessions, we talk about items where the city manager or members of the staff will talk with the commission to get some direction on where we should be going. And the last two meetings, we worked on assembling some capital improvement projects. We have some funds, our carryover funds that are available, and we need to spend them wisely. So we created what I'll call a capital improvement wish list item. There's a lot of items on here. Not all of them can be funded. Not all of them can be done.
For sure. I know that we talked about a lot of things, and it's just going to be about prioritizing them and budgeting for them appropriately.
Right. So let's talk first about the general fund. A couple of things that we have on that list. One that is in process is the replacement of the Ross Point Pier. That's was recently torn down, but it was damaged back in the hurricanes 2.5 years ago. And we suffered the consequences of sailboats going through that, damaging it beyond repair. We've tried to work with FEMA to get it replaced, but due to some red tape with the process, FEMA decided that it's not eligible for repair or replacement, so we're going to undertake that ourselves. The city is applying for an ECHO grant. That's a grant that Volusia County puts out, and it's a very complicated and long, complex grant. It's not just a gimme grant. And we're seeking about $1 million from the county, and then we're going to put about $1 million of taxpayer money into that, and hopefully create a better pier. This pier will be a little bit shorter than the distance it went out into the river, but it's going to be a T-shape, so it's going to have two observation points. There'll be 3 pavilions at the end of this, so people can sit out and they can watch the water, watch the sunrise, look for dolphins, look for fish. So I think it's going to be a wonderful project.
Yeah, there's definitely no better place in our city to watch a launch than the end of that pier. And when the pier was closed, it's very sad. You have to stand on, because you can see it as the rocket comes up. It just clears the Marina Grand Towers, and then you see it come out there, and it's a beautiful viewpoint to see those things happen.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll submit that grant. I think it's due the first week of June, and we get notification by October. If we can get that grant secured, plus some city funding, plus we're going to be applying for what's called the FIND grant, which is the Florida Inland Navigation District grant. And if we can match that to it, all the better. It saves the taxpayer money.
We talked about that pier, and again, if we get the funding, you're probably looking at 18 months at the soonest that you would see a piling go in the ground. But let's talk about the pier to the south, that 2nd Street that got hit by a derelict boat a couple hurricanes ago, and that should be opening very soon, right?
It should be opening very soon. The construction on that is done, the placement of it. There was a change order for some work on the connection of it to the seawall. But it should be pretty close to done. By the time we meet the next time, I think it'll be open for operation.
Yeah, we talk about that, and then let's talk about the retail space down there at Marina Grand. I wouldn't call him a new owner, but the newest owner of that space has invested quite a bit of money. There's a coffee shop down there, and 3 weeks ago, they had a brokers open for all the real estate agents in town, right, trying to recruit an anchor for that position down there.
Yeah, Frank Lapola owns that property now, and the first business that was to open up, a fellow named Rick Hernandez opened up the coffee shop, Dark Alchemy it's called, and he expanded to the unit next door, and he's going to be doing like a boutique kind of wine and novelty type foods. And then, like you said, about a couple weeks ago, Frank had an open house for the realtors. A lot of people showed up. He's trying to attract a restaurant at the south end of that property. It's perfectly situated for a restaurant to go in there with some indoor dining space and some al fresco outdoor dining.
Yeah.
Great location. We're hoping that he lands somebody in there soon, because once he lands a restaurant or another anchor store at the end, I think the rest of that property is going to fill in with all the kind of little boutique shops, whether it's a hairdresser, a dog groomer, a seamstress, tailor.
Ice cream shop. We want ice cream shop.
I wish it had the opportunity for a drive-through, and then that'd be the perfect location for it. So, then we, on our general fund, we were also talking about some public works equipment that we're thinking about buying this year, and there's a high demand for that because we're using our personnel, our manpower, to manually go around and cut these public areas of grass around retention ponds and right-of-ways. And we don't have a radial arm boom with a mower on the end where it can go down and get close to the water. So that's one of the items that we're going to buy that I think is going to be beneficial. It'll be more efficient, more effective for our employees to get the job done. And then we decided we're going to put a sinking fund together for fire apparatus. 2 years ago, just before we purchased the fire station, we bought a new piece of fire equipment. And every 10 years, we buy a new piece of fire equipment, a fire truck. And we take the old fire truck or the current fire truck and we move it to the reserve. We take the reserve fire truck and we surplus that, and that goes away, and then we get a new fire truck. So the last one cost us just under $1 million. The next one's going to cost about $1.5 million.
Yeah, I think we bought that truck right under the curve, right before there was a huge price increase after we signed the contract, and several other neighboring cities signed contracts within a month or two after us, and theirs was significantly more.
That's exactly right. And so we got a good deal on that one. But the next one's going to cost money, so we're going to set some money aside, and then each year we're going to put about $100,000 into it so that when the 10 years comes, which is about 8 years from now, we'll have enough money in there that it won't be a big impact for us to purchase that next piece of equipment. Then we talked a little bit about speed humps. Let's talk about speed humps for a second.
Well, you know, there's no perfect solution.
Well, what is a speed hump?
Well, it's a traffic calming device, and the school of thought is that if you live in a neighborhood and people start speeding, that speed humps will slow them down and make your community safer. But it's a double-edged sword because there's all kinds. There used to be speed bumps, which is a very intense. You got to slow down to 5 miles an hour to go over, or you're going to destroy your car. Then they made speed tables, which were a little not quite as high, but a little wider, and so you could go over it a little faster.
But it still slows the traffic.
It still slows the traffic down. But my personal observation is that people speed from the traffic calming device to the traffic calming device.
Right.
And then you have the argument from first responders that if the fire truck's trying to get to you or the police department's trying to get to you, you want them to get to you as fast as possible. So there's all kinds of traffic calming devices. You either love them or you hate them. And I think you and I talked recently up in your neighborhood where the city installed a bunch of these, and then the neighbors decided, hey, we don't really like these, and it's not slowing the traffic down, and it's not doing what we want, so they removed them. So there's temporary traffic calming devices you can put in that are screwed into the asphalt,
right?
And then there's the old-fashioned type, which are either concrete or poured asphalt, and that's a little more expensive to remove for sure.
Yeah, and there's probably there's one good reason to put in a traffic calming device like a speed hump or a speed table, and that's to slow traffic. But there's about 20 reasons not to put them in,
right.
And it ranges everything from slowing down emergency vehicles to the noise it makes when cars go over them, to people driving around them on private property, to disrupting the flow of stormwater. There's so many things that are negative for a speed table than there is for the positive. So we're going to try this out. I think we're going to decide, the commission decided to put one on Alabama Avenue and just see how that works to slow traffic down
right.
there. Because a lot of people do cut from Flomish Avenue to Alabama on some of those residential streets. So if it can discourage some people from doing that, maybe it's a good thing. We'll
right.
see.
We'll give it a try for sure.
Yeah. Then we talked a little bit about poles, these poles on Ridgewood Avenue.
Yeah, we've kind of come full circle, not really full circle, but we used to have a lot of poles, a lot of visual distractions on the south end of town.
Because they were holding up.
They were holding up the power lines.
Holding up all the.
Now the power lines are underground.
Right.
But we have a lot of good things going on in the city. You know, whether it's a concert or the Christmas parade or Easter egg hunt, something going on in the city, we like to advertise, and we put the banner across US 1 right by City Hall. But other cities have poles, like a wayfinding pole that they put a banner or a flag on to bring attention to the 4th of July or Veterans Day or whatever the event might be. So we discussed about the potential of putting some of those type of poles down the middle of US 1. Not on either side of US 1, because that might add more clutter that we tried to eliminate in the first place.
Right.
But just putting them every so often in the medians to let people know of the special events coming on in the city.
Yeah, and I think it's a good opportunity to showcase the events that we do have. You mentioned a couple of them. Everything from our car show, which we've been doing for I think 10 years now. We've been doing that car show, to our Easter events, to our National Night Out. And if there's not an event coming up, we'll just advertise the city of Holly Hill.
Right.
So that's going to look wonderful coming down the center of US 1. And again, I'll mention that the overhead power lines on the north end of the city from Walker to the north city limits should be down by the end of the month. So we're looking forward to that getting done.
So we talked about capital improvements that the city's doing and some of the private investment coming. But one thing that we kind of skimmed right over is something that's going to be opening hopefully within the next 60 days. It's on Flomish, the Lake Bell RV Resort.
All right, I forgot about that.
We've been out there several field visits in the past couple months, checking on the progress. I just went by.
There are hurdles. The city slowed them down at the beginning of the project because there was a question about some of the site design, and we wanted to make sure that it was right.
Right.
There's several large retention areas on that property, especially with the 8 or 10 acre lake.
8-acre lake right in the middle that you can't see when you drive past it. You can only see it when you go into it.
And that lake's going to hold all of their stormwater and then some, because
Right.
that is actually part of what we call the Northeast Canal. That's the canal that comes down from the Cala Grande Arches, comes in from Ormond Beach, and then ends up in the LPGA Canal. So in addition to that, there's also 2 other large retention areas.
Right, and those are dry, and so they catch the rain when it runs off immediately.
Right. So they are, by design, by engineering design, they are designed to hold all of the stormwater from their property. But knowing Flomish, as we have for many, many years, Flomish itself does flood when
Right.
we have heavy, heavy rains, 100 and 500-year storms. So people may think that if Flomish is flooding, it's because of that project. But I
Right.
think the fact is that project is holding all of their water on their property, and that water that you might see on Flomish is just water that's always been there that doesn't go anywhere else.
Right. When the layperson drives by and sees that the elevation of that property is significantly higher than when they started, your first thought is, well, it's going to flood the whole neighborhood. Until you look at it from a drone's perspective and see all the retention that is on the property and the requirements from the city and the St. John's Water Management, that they can't make the flooding any worse than before they started their project. So that's why when the development first started, I think there was over 150 sites, RV sites proposed for that.
Right.
And then once the regulations were put in place, I think they're right at 96 or 98 right now. So as a business owner, you want as many sites as possible
Sure.
to accentuate your profit. But to make sure that the neighborhood and the city is safe, we had to make sure that they have the retention available to keep that water on site.
Right, and that's why we slowed them down at the beginning, because we were unsure of some things, and it went back to our engineers and went back to their engineers, and we had to redesign. They had to redesign a couple of things just to ensure that it is really meeting the intent of what St. John's Water Management District wants to see out of that. So as a camper, you are, not me.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that project?
I think it's going to be nice. It's going to be very nice. Camping is a time where it doesn't necessarily have to be in the woods. But I tell you, when that site was first proposed myself and a couple other our friends that own campers, we were worried about the noise from the trains. Like, who would sleep through that? So we took our campers and we parked them out there on a weekend before there was any infrastructure there at all, just to see how bad the train noise would be. And it wasn't. It was very calming. And when you sit on that property and look up at the sky, you really kind of think you're in the middle of the Ocala National Forest.
Yeah.
It's quiet there. It's dark there. You're in the middle of our city, but you really think you're out in the middle of the woods. And when you unhook your camper, whether it's at Lake Bell or in the Ocala National Forest, when you unhook your camper from your truck, I think your blood pressure goes down about 20 points. You're just in relaxation mode at that point.
Yeah. You know, and speaking of the railroad, I grew up on Long Island. I grew up probably 2 miles the way the bird flies from the MacArthur Airport. And we used to hear those plane engines revving up every day, during the night. And for us, it was normal. It was something we were just used to. We looked forward to it. It wasn't something that stood out. And I think that's how a lot of people around here see that railroad. Some people find it as an annoying sound, and others find it as a calming sound.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting. And I think that from what I've seen on that project, it's going to be a wonderful campground. I think a lot of folks are going to go there to visit. There's so much Holly Hill has to offer for people to come and visit. Our number one pickleball facility is top on the list.
Right.
And then right around the corner from there, they've got the Riviera golf course, which is in the city of Holly Hill. Although it has a Norman Beach address, it is in the city limits of Holly Hill. And then there's always all of the other attractions that we have in the city, from our sports complexes up on Nova Road to the location of the beach.
Yeah, and Sunrise Park. You know, we have the kayak rentals there, whether you have your kayak or you want to rent the kayaks by the hour there.
Yeah, that's a great location. There's 4 kayaks there. They could be. It's got a kiosk. You put your credit card information in there. It's secure. You can rent the kiosk. You can rent the kayak for anywhere from 30 minutes to as many hours as you want, and tour the intracoastal river.
Yeah.
And see what it has to offer with all the beauty that's there.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
Yeah. And then speaking of the, we have 20 minutes left. No, we have 2 minutes.
We have 2 minutes left. We're not sure how we sign off. So
We have 2 minutes left. So the last thing we'll bring up, being that we mentioned the water and Sunrise Park, is your thoughts on, real quick, of a bait shop on the property.
You know, we discussed that as a commission, and if you're familiar with the Granada boat ramp there, Ike Leary has had the bait shop there forever. He's a landmark to go see. And we talked about having one of those type of landmarks in our city. For years, we've talked about the shops across the street on Riverside Drive, maybe there being a bait shop that sells ice cream sandwiches and suntan lotion. The commission's actually talking about exploring the potential of building a small bait shop in Sunrise Park, putting it out for a tenant to occupy and sell shrimp and ice cream sandwiches and suntan lotion to the people that come there.
Yeah, that park, Sunrise Park Boat Launch, is very popular, especially on the weekends. So I think having a business there would benefit the community very well.
For sure. Definitely.
We'll say goodbye.
All right. Well, this was a great half hour. Mayor, thank you for joining me, and we look forward to